Welcome, everybody. I'm Dr. Shawne with Project Forgive, and this conversation is part of an ongoing series supported by the Templeton World Charity Foundation and discoverforgiveness.org. And it's where we're really exploring what forgiveness really looks like in real life, not just in theory. Today's topic is letting go without losing yourself. A conversation on self forgiveness. Now, after the conversation, we're going to provide you all kinds of exquisite resources to foster self care, and we'll provide those at the end of the interview and the conversation we're about to have. And it's going to be with Dr. Cheryl Wood, which I have the absolute joy of welcoming her. Hey, Dr. Cheryl, how are ya?
Hey, Dr. Shawne, I'm excited to be a part of this conversation that I feel is so important. So thank you for having me.
My joy. Let me just tell folks a little bit about you before we get started. Dr. Cheryl is a globally recognized transformational speaker, coach, and author who has helped tens of thousands of women claim their voice, their power, and their worth. She teaches what it means to stand in truth without apology and to do it with love, clarity, and accountability. Now, in this conversation, we're talking about something tender and necessary: self forgiveness and releasing anger. And here's what I want you to know up front. Everything you're about to hear isn't just motivational, it's research backed. Many of you know I'm a researcher as well, right? You'll also be able to download practical tools. I think there's journal prompts, science summaries from this conversation at discoverforgiveness.org, which I'll re-mention at the end. Plus, I got to mention our downloadable workbook, which we'll put up all the info in the comments below. Many of us have been working on this workbook that's actually causing quite a difference. Okay, here we go. So, Dr. Cheryl, there's a study that really stopped me in my tracks. It's about hostility, forgiveness, and cognitive impairment. And what happened over 10 years, researchers followed more than 1,000 people, and what they found was remarkable. People who held on to their hostility, the quiet kind that kind of lives as resentment, bitterness, or self blame, actually experienced cognitive decline over time. So, what the heck does that mean? That means their memory, their focus, and even their clarity of thinking faded faster than those who practice self forgiveness. They didn't experience the same decline. So, in essence, it means forgiveness isn't just emotional, it's actually biological, and it literally helps your brain stay healthy. And when I read that, I thought, this changes everything, because forgiving yourself is an act of self-preservation and an act of self-care. So, Dr. Cheryl, when you hear all this, that self-forgiveness literally protects your brain, what does that stir in you? What comes up for you?
You know what, Dr. Shawne, it stirs in me these really deep feelings of worthiness. And I say of worthiness because it reminds me that I have a right to have peace. I have a right to have balance and harmony and a level of freedom in my life, that I don't have to hold myself hostage to self inflicted stress and self inflicted pain because I won't forgive myself. And we know that when we inflict any type of pain on ourselves or someone else does, that it's literally, it creates chaos within our bodies.
You said self-inflicted. I've never heard it quite framed that way. Will you say more about that?
Self inflicted because we have the power and we have the ability to release and to let go and to move forward. But most times we hold on. We hold on to all these negative, toxic emotions from things that we've done, things that we wish perhaps we could take back. And I think all of us have been there. We've all probably been in a space where there was something that we said or we did, maybe it offended someone else, something that perhaps a response that we gave that we wish we could take back or we could have handled differently. And we can replay that in our minds over and over and over again. And it literally is self inflicted stress, which creates and causes chaos within our minds and within our bodies. And really, the self forgiveness piece, I say that makes me feel worthy of peace, balance, and harmony, because all of us at the end of the day are human. And because we're human, it means we're imperfect. And because we're imperfect, it means that we're going to make some mistakes. We're going to perhaps do some things that we wish that we could take back or redo. And oftentimes we cannot do it over. And this idea that if you are willing to tap into the power of forgiving yourself, giving yourself some grace, understanding and acknowledging that maybe there was a better way to do it, but releasing it, that protects your brain, it protects your body, it protects your mental status, it protects chaos from erupting it within you. That's just a beautiful space to say, I'm worthy of everything on the other side of my mistakes. I'm worthy of all the positive that I get to experience, the peace, the harmony, and the grace within myself, even on
Right.
the opposite side of
Great
mistakes.
segue. This is a great segue.
Yeah.
And we'll get to some things you can do to support yourself and just breaking free when you're just so stuck in a lack of forgiveness, because we are hard on ourselves.
Yes.
You've mentioned it, replaying mistakes, regretting what we said, wishing we'd handled something differently. And yet we can show compassion to everyone else, but not to ourselves. Why do you think we're so harsh on ourselves?
I think it's because most of us as humans, we've really been conditioned to believe that when we hold on to the guilt or the shame or the regret of something that we did that we're not proud of, that's the proof that, oh, I've learned the lesson. It's only by holding on to those toxic feelings that we prove that, oh, I wish I had done that differently. And
Yes.
secondly, I think it's because most of us, we've been taught to own our mistakes. So we've been taught accountability, but we haven't really been taught how to release those mistakes, which puts us into a space really of what I call self punishment. And when you punish yourself, it's literally like you're imprisoning yourself. And that punishment, again, it keeps replaying like a broken record over and over again, because somehow in the back of your mind, you're thinking that suffering should come along with the guilt, the shame, the regret of what you wish you could undo or redo. And that somehow makes us feel better. So we're really hard on ourselves, but really the goal should be that, look, I'm going to be accountable. I'm going to own the mistakes, but I'm not going to keep revisiting the wound. I'm going to extract the wisdom from what I've learned from it, but then I'm going to learn, I'm going to grow, and I'm going to walk forward in a space of freedom.
That's beautiful. And another reason, too, why we're so harsh with ourselves is habit.
Yeah.
We do things over and over and over again. It's kind of like when your car gets stuck in the snow and you keep spinning the wheel, doing the same thing, hoping to get a different result. And
Mhm.
it's actually a habit, like to think of something new to do, to respond in a different way. Maybe you throw kitty litter under the car. Maybe you throw a board under the car to get the tire out. Maybe you just get in a different car, okay?
Mhm.
Because 95% of our brain activity is unconscious. We do things, most things unconsciously. And to raise awareness, one of the reasons why we're doing this interview is to raise awareness of how our brain works and really seeing these connections in research between anger, holding on to stuff, and impacting our long cognitive abilities is mind blowing. It actually is another incentive, right? And all of this is a paradox. The very empathy that makes us loving and giving to other people is the same empathy that we want to give ourselves. And I know that you, Dr. Cheryl, you teach leadership that includes self leadership. That's a phrase that you use, that we can use the same grace and strength that we give to others to nurture our own healing, right?
Absolutely. And that word, I love that word grace, but sometimes people feel like grace is the absence of accountability. It's not the absence of accountability. It's really allowing accountability to turn into wisdom instead of into shame. And we can be harsh on ourselves, but again, as you mentioned, we're just inflicting more pain, neurologically, biologically, mentally. It's wreaking havoc on our lives. So being harsh with yourself is really not the solution. That's not going to get you any further ahead. That really is just going to stunt your growth, your development, your feelings of peace. And again, releasing it is not about denial, it's not about avoidance. I call it graduation. It's you graduating, right? Let's graduate from that moment. Let's graduate from that experience. Let's graduate from that lesson. And now let's carry that wisdom ahead instead of carrying shame, guilt, and regret.
Okay, well, regret is the next topic I want to move to. I have to say, one of the reasons I love discoverforgiveness.org is all the research. I am a research junkie. I love research, especially um, deep, profound, longitudinal studies like this one is that we're focusing on around anger. And studies show that 83% of us experience regret.
Mm-hmm.
And for someone who feels deep shame or regret, maybe for a decision or a relationship or something that you can't undo, what's a good place to start, Dr. Shaw?
I would say one simple reality and fact is that you cannot heal what you keep hiding. And so the first step I would say to start by just telling the truth. It might sound something like, I really hurt this person that I love, or I stayed quiet in that situation when I know I should have spoken up, or I really wish I had responded to that situation differently and I didn't. Because shame loses its power when you speak
Yeah.
it out loud. And so, no, you can't erase the past, you cannot undo what happened, but again, you can extract the wisdom. So I encourage people to, whatever the lesson is, and as you're speaking out the truth, let it teach you, not torture you.
Oh,
And some
gosh.
of us are we're
Let
letting
it teach you, not torture you. That is so great. And you're kind of sharing, like, begin where you are. And as an incest survivor, I share pretty openly that I'm an
Mhm,
incest survivor. Releasing that shame at the very beginning of recovery from sexual assault is naming what happened. It's so hard to do. And
mhm.
it's so important to begin where you are because forgiveness, releasing it, it's not just an act. You don't just do it.
Yep.
It's a relationship we keep returning to ourselves because healing is rarely linear, right? And
Right.
sometimes the bravest thing you can do is simply say, and might be where you begin where you are, I forgive myself for not being forgiving. Or something as simple as, I'm not ready to forgive yet, but I'm willing to try. That's
Mhm,
kind of the stuff we've been doing in the workbook, the Reach workbook
mhm.
from discoverforgiveness.org. That willingness, that's where the light starts coming back in. Okay? All
Absolutely.
right. Anger is so human, right? This is a great study on looking at this hostility, but when it stays too long, that same energy can poison us, yes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I've learned that a part of me, this is personal. I used to feel like releasing my anger almost meant I'm losing my edge.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I don't want to lose my edge, you know. I want people to take me seriously and I want them to know I meant what I said. And really, honestly, I'm more powerful when I speak from a place of peace instead of pain and holding on to anger. And so I've learned that I have to, even that in that space, release so that I can rectify, release so that I can restore, release so that I can heal. I cannot hold on to being angry because it just poisons me. It literally is like if someone gave you a bottle of water and said, "Hey, here's some water. You look like you're thirsty, and by the way, it's only a little teeny bit of poison in it, but I think you'll be okay." We would think they were crazy, but
Yep.
that's what we do to ourselves. We poison
Every day,
every.
day in and day out, you're spot on. And anger is so heavy on the body. There's so
Yes.
much research about anger on our body. When we hold on to anger and resentment, our cortisol and our stress hormones go way up. And
Mhm,
when we forgive, those levels drop,
mhm.
helping our heart, our focus, and even our immune system recover. And on the flip side, anger is important energy because it says something here matters.
Yeah.
And this is what I love about you, Dr. Cheryl, because you share about releasing anger without losing your voice. How do we release this anger without losing our voices?
Yeah, so I think it's important that we still express ourselves, that we articulate when things perhaps are complete opposite of what we anticipated in a certain relationship or a certain situation, or that something did upset us, hurt us, offend us. I think that's important that because that also that can get bottled up inside when you don't express, when you don't release that, it stays inside. And I don't know about anybody else, but when I keep that inside, my feelings, my emotions, and I don't express it even in a positive way that's controlled, not reactional, it just it sticks right in here, all through my neck, my shoulders, my arms, my back. I'm tight, I'm tense. I feel the stress in my body. So I don't want it to be something that I keep inside. I do want to be forthright in expressing my emotions. We all have emotions and they're not always all positive. There are things that happen in life. That's reality. That's a part of humanity. So I think we have to give ourselves that permission that I didn't like the way that was presented or that was said to me, or I didn't appreciate the way this went down in this relationship or this situation or whatever the thing might be. But it's a way to do it in a way that it's controlled, but it's forthright and you take your stance, but it's not done in a space of anger and it doesn't feel combative because that just tears you apart.
Yeah, I got a great example for this. I think the people closest to us are the ones we struggle with the
Yes.
most, with
Yes.
reactivity and anger and all that stuff. So my husband will say, I've been married 30 years, okay? So my husband will say something to me and I can feel the whoosh up my body. I can feel, right? One of the things I've been practicing that's actually working is I'll say, and I can feel the rage. Okay. Like I can't even believe that came out of his mouth. We know this when we're in relationship.
Yes.
And I'll say, you know what? I'm noticing I'm deeply defensive right now. I'm going to take a breath to calm down so I can treat you like the person who's the love of my life because you
Oh,
are. I
I
can do that now,
I love
right?
that.
Yeah. And
Grown.
so,
I've grown in articulating that when something is irritating me before I get to the pressure point where I'm about to just be on about to tip off the edge. I'm learning that still, but I've come a really long way because the environment I grew up in, Dr. Shawne, it almost was like you had to be defensive all the time and you had to kind of demonstrate anger for the world for you to protect yourself from the outside world. That was the environment I grew up in. And I brought that, speaking about marriage, into my marriage. That was the same person. I didn't change. And so if there's something that my husband does or it offends me or I don't like the way this is going, like it can go from 0 to 100 really, really quickly. And then I'm in the space where I'm regretting and I'm shameful of what I said or how I said it or I yelled, whatever it is. So I love that you're sharing that because I've been working on that and it makes a difference. And I will say something very similar to my husband. I'll say, you know what? I didn't care for the way that you just said what you said. So right now I'm going to step away because I can feel my blood starting to boil. Now that might be not be the perfect words, but at
no,
least
that's
it,
great.
it subsides the negative energy that's about to erupt into fire
Yep.
before it gets there. And then I have to go back and apologize or regret something or be embarrassed about something that I wish I'd handled differently.
Yeah. And those regrets a lot of times come from defensiveness, right? Um,
Yes.
it reminds me of chocolate peanut butter Haagen-Dazs ice cream, which I love. Okay. I love that ice cream. But when I eat it, I'm in physical pain for 3 days, 2 to 3 days. It just does not agree with my body anymore. And it took me a while of feeling the consequences of eating that ice cream. Now I can pass it at the Walmart and say, hello, chocolate peanut butter ice cream, and I don't have to buy it because I've transformed my habits. So this anger response habit can be transformed. The one thing I do want to say about it before we go into some resilience stuff is there's many researchers say there's phases of forgiveness. We go with the 5 phases: shock, anger, grief, acceptance, peace. Shock, anger, grief, acceptance, peace. Some of us really struggle to even feel anger. Some of us get stuck in anger. And of these phases, I believe and I've experienced grief to be the hardest and the most transformational because it's hard to sit with grief. We've got a lot of cultural grief going on globally with everything that's happening in the world. There's a lot of anger, there's a lot of grief. Just as a reminder, we are nonpartisan, we are non-religious. This isn't conversations about that. It's actually where we begin, where we started from Dr. Cheryl saying, acknowledging what's true and to release shame. There's a lot of pain in the world. That's really true. And when I start saying things like, I'm noticing how defensive I am to my husband, it actually opens the door to shift from anger to grief. So I can actually say something vulnerable, like maybe when you said that to me, It took me back to being 8 years old when my mother was being very abusive with me.
Mhm.
And that allows the grief. I can actually feel the grief even in this moment. And
Mhm.
it's like a release, to actually have more intimate, more vulnerable, and more valuable connection in our relationships, right?
Oh,
Okay.
it touches my heart. I love the way that you just articulated that. It's so powerful if we can all get to that place. And again, it's controlled emotion. It's not that the emotion isn't there, but it's
Yes.
controlled instead, and it's responsive instead of reactive. So I
Yeah,
love
and it's
that.
creating new habits to be
Yes.
more responsive rather than reactive, like raising our awareness. Okay, I'm in reactivity mode, I'm in automatic mode. My brain is doing exactly what it's designed to do to keep me safe, but it
Mhm.
doesn't keep me happy. It keeps me safe,
Yes.
but it doesn't help me stay joyful.
Mhm.
Okay, now this research that we've been looking at, this longitudinal study on hostility, for those just joining us, on hostility and the impact on cognitive impairment long term, that forgiveness might actually be brain care, almost like exercise for your mind. So I'm thinking if we see forgiveness as a form of resilience, I'm wondering what your thoughts are about that.
Again, I love that concept of viewing it that way, because when I think about resilience, I think about I'm getting back up. And when I think about forgiving myself, it's I'm getting back up and I'm reclaiming my energy from the thing that tried to drain it. So it's not about saying, "Oh, it's okay." It's really saying it happened, but I'm still standing. I choose to get back up. I choose to learn from this, to grow from it, to take the wisdom and to move forward and to become a better version of me that learns from this. So it's choosing not to be defined by the wound, but really to let the wisdom lead you moving forward. So I love that ideology of it connected to resilience.
Yeah, and you know what else I was thinking, especially to what you said earlier, we tend to think about resilience as endurance to get through it. And actually, you talked about that earlier, that you thought you had to be this certain way. And it's not about that. It's about recovery. It's about an ability to return to peace, to center, to clarity, to our worthiness,
Mhm.
right?
Absolutely. And there was something that you were mentioning earlier that really stuck with me as well, which is how we talk to ourselves as we're building ourselves back up from that wound, and we're choosing to get back up and reclaim our energy, because self forgiveness is about extending to ourselves the same compassion inward that we would for someone that we were giving encouraging words to, who perhaps felt some regret or shame or guilt about something that happened. So the way that we speak to ourselves should be a big part of this idea of resilience. You wouldn't shame someone who had come to you and they felt a certain way about something that had happened. You would remind them that they're still worthy, they're still loved, they're still redeemable. And that's what we have to do for ourselves as well. For forgiveness, I always remind myself it doesn't change what happened, but it can change what happens next.
I love it. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, we're getting ready to wind down here. This conversation is beautiful in that it's reminding us all that we are not in this alone, that
Mm.
we're all dealing with this as human beings. And for some of us watching, we're just freaking tired, man. Tired of the global chaos, tired of carrying guilt, tired of carrying resentment, of shame. Can you provide a first gentle step toward forgiving ourselves?
Yeah, in addition to what we've already talked about, which is calling it out for what it is, speaking the truth, but also then being kind to yourself and turning that compassion inward, I would say, ironically, rest before you repair.
Mm.
Because when you are exhausted from carrying the pain of mistakes, guilt, shame, embarrassment, whatever the feelings are that you're feeling, the first act of forgiveness is to rest. It's really to sit still, get quiet, breathe, go inward, and don't just jump into trying to fix the thing that needs to be felt first. So feel it, give yourself rest, because healing, it doesn't happen when you're busy. You're in busy motion. You're trying to prove to everybody that, oh, you're okay. Or like I was holding on to the anger because I didn't want to lose my edge. It really begins with you giving yourself permission to pause, to rest, and then to create a roadmap towards repair.
Mm, 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 mm. And every time we extend that grace of repair to ourselves, we're rebuilding trust with ourselves
Yes.
and with others and with our own heart. And many times, this grace is really about extending trust within ourselves, eh?
Yes, absolutely. That's the most important, is learning to trust you again. And it's so interesting that this conversation comes at such a powerful time, because I had something that happened recently, just in recent months, that I really was kind of beating myself up about. And just all this conversation reminds me, be kind to yourself, because you are also human. And I have to realize, like you mentioned, going back to, why did I get so upset in that situation? Because it took me back to my childhood. It took me back to a dark place, and I reacted instead of responding. And so I had my moments where I felt really, really horrible about how I reacted. But I'm moving into the space of being kind with myself. And a part of that was just giving a little time and space between myself and the person, and allowing myself to trust me again, repair me, rest me before I try to repair the relationship.
And isn't that a worthiness conversation? That you're worthy of rest
Yes.
before you repair. That really is a conversation of worthiness. And many times we don't need to we don't need to find our worthiness. We need to remind ourselves of who we are and that we really are worthy. It's a reminder rather than figuring out and proving and all that stuff, right?
Absolutely. Beautifully stated.
Yeah, and this reminder using this study, that forgiveness isn't the end of something. It's the return to love. It's the return to peace. It's to the return to who we've always been underneath any pain, upset, betrayal.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. All right. Let me give a couple of resources. I'm not saying bye to you yet, Dr. Cheryl. A couple of resources. Be sure to check out discoverforgiveness.org. There is so much research that will inspire you and give you insight and raise your awareness so you're not doing things out of habit automatically. Also, there is a workbook that is just fantastic. It's the Reach Workbook. You'll find it at www.discoverforgiveness.org/project forgive. Very easy to access. No one's going to ask you for your email. No one's going to be marketing to you. You can download it in 5 languages, and the workbook is exquisite. I've been doing it on Project Forgive's Facebook page. We're about halfway through or so. I have had major breakthroughs around forgiveness and money. It's been pretty amazing. Also, so check out the resources on discoverforgiveness.org. To get in touch with Dr. Cheryl, you can go to, we'll also put these links in the comments below. Okay. LinkedIn.com/in//Cheryl Empowers. That's how you can grab her on LinkedIn. And CherylEmpowers.com, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Perfect. So, Dr. Cheryl, thank you for this conversation. Is there one word you'd like to leave us with as we complete the conversation?
One word, my big word from this conversation would be freedom.
Mm,
That's my word. And there was something that we talked about before our session today, about how do we feel? What do we, when we forgive ourselves, what is it that we feel or experience? And for me, I feel and experience freedom when I forgive myself. I give the future me, the woman I'm becoming, permission to be free, because I can breathe again. I get to lead and love and live fully, because I'm not still punishing myself for just being human.
yeah.
And so many of us, we stop living fully, stop trusting, stop leading, stop doing all the things, because we experience a part of humanity, which is sometimes emotions that we didn't control properly. So for me, it's freedom and the ability to breathe again, because I'm not continuing to punish myself.
That's beautiful. What a great way to synthesize it. Dr. Cheryl, thank you so much for this exquisite conversation. I know many people watching today just exhaled for the very first time in a very long time. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. What a beautiful conversation. I appreciate you.
And for you watching, exquisite. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. Big love. Bye bye.